7 days. That's all it took for Hollywood's on-again, off-again golden girl to detonate the very machine that once rocketed her to fame. One Tuesday morning, her longtime agent's profile quietly vanished from the agency roster. 48 hours later, the manager who guided every big contract since West Side Story was gone. By Friday evening, just as the trades were logging off for the weekend, her publicist, the crisis control specialist paid to spin disasters into red carpet moments, was fired with a single phone call. No statements, no cordial thanks for the memories, just 3 abrupt goodbyes and a flurry of frantic text chains asking the same question. Had Rachel Zegler finally snapped, or was this the boldest career reboot Hollywood has seen in years? The timing couldn't have been messier. Her London revival of Evita was already a desert of bad headlines. Walkouts, leaked rehearsal notes accusing her of combative behavior, and a brand new $25 million defamation lawsuit ping-ponging between star and producers. Meanwhile, Disney's live-action Snow White was limping toward its fall release with a marketing directive insiders boiled down to promote the movie, not the actress. To outsiders, firing everyone in the middle of 2 rolling crises looked like a panic spiral. But to those close enough to watch texts fly in real time, the purge felt surgical, almost rehearsed. Hold that thought, because to understand why Rachel lit the match, you have to rewind to the very first spark. A single rehearsal in London where she allegedly hurled a stage prop across the room. It's the moment castmates whisper about in dark pubs, the moment her team first tasted just how combustible their client could be. And it's the moment Rachel insists proved they would never protect her when the flames got high. So buckle in. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll trace every domino from that prop throw rumor to the soft blacklist, freezing her out of studio shortlists, finally landing on the cryptic Instagram post hinting at a DIY comeback. Each chapter digs deeper, moves faster, and, fair warning, gets a little messier than the one before. Because whether this ends in redemption or implosion, Rachel Zegler just declared war on the very industry that crowned her, and Hollywood is already deciding whose side to take. It started at 8:06 a.m. Pacific, when talent tracking bots noticed the sudden disappearance of Meredith Kane, the CAA veteran who had negotiated Rachel's Disney contracts. Within minutes, the agency site refreshed, swapping Kane's name for a gray talent coordinator placeholder. Journalists pinged CAA. The official reply, no comment, was practically confirmation. By noon, Variety's back-channel Slack lit up with one blunt headline: Zegler drops agent. 48 hours later, Thursday afternoon, the second shoe dropped. Paul Rodriguez, manager, mentor, the guy who field-tested her from high school cover songs to Spielberg's red carpet, was out. His assistant told Deadline creative differences. An insider claims Rachel called at dawn, read a bullet point list of grievances, and hung up before he could bargain. Then came Friday. If you've never heard the scream of a publicist whose client fires them mid-firestorm, count yourself blessed. Witnesses say Kate Mullen was in a Beverly Hills elevator when the termination email buzzed her phone. Effective immediately. It read, 6 months of crisis strategy, evaporated between floors. By cocktail hour, she'd blasted a decompression selfie from a rooftop bar. The caption, Onward, told its own story. 3 exits in 72 hours felt less like chaos and more like scorched earth policy. Insiders split into 2 camps. The first whispered panic, a star dumping the only people keeping her afloat. The second muttered power play, a cleanup act to build a hand-picked squad loyal to Rachel alone. Either way, the message to Hollywood was unmistakable. Don't count on anyone but me. And that terrified the very executives writing casting shortlists for next year's tentpoles. But to see why Rachel lost faith in her circle, we have to go back to London, to a rehearsal space that still reeks of stage fog and regret. Because the real meltdown didn't begin with a firing. It began with a whispered rewrite, a slammed rehearsal door, and a stage prop flying across the room. The revival was billed as dark, radical, unflinching, a reimagining of Eva Peron for the TikTok era. But from day one, word leaked that the star and the director were dancing on different planets. Rachel arrived armed with her own lyric tweaks, softer politics, modern pronouns, a sanitized spin on Peron's nationalist streak. The director, Jamie Lloyd, allegedly shot back, "You're not here to rewrite history, you're here to perform it." What followed was a rehearsal schedule peppered with expletives and at least one walkout by supporting actresses who claimed Rachel's constant notes bordered on delusion. Then came the prop incident. Accounts vary. Some say it was a silver hand mirror, Others insist on a plastic champagne flute. Whatever sailed through the air that afternoon, it cracked open the company's patience. A leaked rehearsal memo described her as combative, resistant to feedback, and emotionally erratic. Producers panicked. Investors whispered exit clauses, but Rachel's public image held until the leaks trickled onto fan forums, then Reddit, then YouTube drama channels hungry for Broadway blood. Faced with rising ridicule and zero intervention from her team, Rachel lawyered up. Court filings claim the producers encouraged the smear to scapegoat her for budget overruns. Producers countersued for breach of contract and reputational harm, tacking on a cool $25 million in damages. Overnight, a high art revival mutated into a legal slugfest, and Rachel's team, dead silent. No press statement, no friendly leak, no off-record phone call to Variety. And that, insiders say, is the moment she decided they weren't protecting her. They were protecting themselves. But London was only half the storm. Across the Atlantic, an entirely different monster was brewing. The backlash that never stopped clawing at Disney's door. Remember when Rachel's casting as Disney's first Latina Snow White made headlines for all the right reasons? That optimism lasted about 12 hours, until old clips resurfaced of Rachel laughing that the original fairy tale was weird and dated. By the time production wrapped, every offhand quip morphed into a TikTok stitch accusing her of disrespecting a classic. Disney tried to ride out the noise, but it kept spiking. The CGI dwarf reveal, a risque anti-Trump rant that forced a top Disney exec to fly cross-country and beg her to delete the post, and an explosion of right-wing pundits promising a boycott before the first teaser dropped. Early 2025 screenings didn't help. Internal analytics hinted the film might under-index with family audiences by double digits. Disney's solution? Cut the damage. The new marketing guidance, leaked by a disgruntled contractor, read, "Push the movie, not the actress." Profile features were canceled. Press junket seating charts redrawn to keep Rachel away from hot mic opportunities. Behind the scenes, however, Rachel seethed. Friends say she felt abandoned, another scapegoat for corporate misfires. Her team urged restraint. Rachel opened Twitter anyway, firing cryptic subtweets about betrayal. And each time her mentions exploded, her team scrambled to frame the narrative, patch the headline, soothe the studio. By spring, they were exhausted. By summer, fired. The purge might have ended the shouting matches, but it also unlocked a vault of screenshots that threatened to end more than just Rachel's patience. 72 hours after the publicist's exit, a series of screenshots surfaced in private Hollywood group chats. They weren't your garden variety fandom receipts. They were Slack logs time-stamped during peak Evita chaos. One message, allegedly from the publicist, read, "We can't keep cleaning this up. She won't listen. She wants applause, not advice." Another, attributed to the manager, confessed, "I've done damage control for years, but now she is the damage." And most damning, an email chain from the agent to a casting director warning, "She's emotionally volatile. Proceed with caution." Rachel's camp calls the leaks fabricated. The ex-team hints at a broader paper trail. Lawyers circled. At stake, breach of confidentiality penalties, lost future earnings, and a potential professional sabotage suit worth 8 figures. Hollywood gossip thrives on allegations, but contracts thrive on discovery, and no one wants their second inbox exposed under oath. Paradoxically, the leak strengthened Rachel's power play narrative. See, they were never on my side, but it also amplified every exec's worst fear, that hiring her might invite a private Slack thread to end up on TMZ. The risk curve tilted, and project by project, her name slipped to second look, or vanished entirely. Because when reputational risk spikes, Hollywood's answer isn't a press release. It's a phone that stops ringing. A month after the purge, Rachel's inbox looked eerily quiet. Paddington in Peru had already replaced her with Carla Toos, citing strike logistics. An Apple-financed animated feature evaporated before Netflix scooped it up. Minus Rachel's voice credits, according to 2 insiders who saw the revised call sheet, and casting directors from 3 separate streaming platforms flagged her profile with the same 3 words: high-variance talent. Translation: brilliant on camera, combustible everywhere else. Industry veterans call it a soft blacklist. No studio announces it, they just sidestep the liability. A Marvel unit exec summed it up bluntly at a Soho House brunch. Why strap a rocket to someone who might blow mid-launch? The sentiment spread. Panels withdrew invites. Fashion brands paused endorsement talks. Even Disney's award season push for Snow White trimmed her press day allotment to a single early morning slot. barely enough time for lipstick, let alone damage. To outsiders, the pattern screamed collapse. To Rachel, it screamed confirmation. The very people paid to protect her image had been quietly poisoning the well. And if that was true, scorched earth suddenly looked like the only fertile ground left. So she did the unthinkable, dropped the PR playbook and drafted a legal one, all while teasing a comeback that might bypass Hollywood altogether. By mid-April, the cease and desist letters were flying faster than TMZ notifications. Sources say Rachel's new counsel is drafting a sabotage complaint aimed squarely at her former team, alleging breach of fiduciary duty and intentional defamation. Potential damages: up to the combined gross of her last 3 movies, low 9 figures. Her old team, unsurprisingly, is lawyering up. One ex-associate told The Wrap, "If she wants war, fine, but we're not the villains here." The subpoena hunt promises popcorn for months. Yet while attorneys grind behind closed doors, Rachel slipped back onto Instagram with a single black and white story slide. If they can't help you fly, let them go. No caption, no tags, just silence and the unmistakable sound of a page turning. Observant fans noticed she'd followed 3 new accounts: a branding whisperer credited with Lindsay Lohan's image rehab, an indie producer who crowdfunds art house films that own their distribution, and a YouTuber documenting behind last year's Free Britney-style series that flipped perception in 8 episodes flat. Insiders swear she's planning a direct-to-fan docuseries, part diary, part exposé, part Phoenix from the Ashes manifesto. Think Meghan Markle's Netflix confession meets Taylor Swift's self-directed concert film, but with Broadway dance breaks and legal receipts. By controlling shooting schedules and final cut, Rachel could bypass the studios calling her radioactive, deliver her narrative unfiltered, and monetize view counts without splitting back-end points with the very execs ghosting her. Bold? Absolutely. Risky? Only if audiences have tuned her out. Something her haters do loud, but her fan base does louder. But every comeback rides a razor's edge, and history says reinvention is rare, while implosion is forever. Psychologists who study fame call it the isolation spiral. Early success builds an entourage whose job is equal parts applause and armor. Gradually, the star trusts the applause more than the armor. Critiques feel like betrayal. Betrayal like conspiracy. The entourage fractures, trust implodes, and the star stands alone, convinced only they can fix the narrative. Textbook cautionary tale, unless the star actually succeeds. Robert Downey Jr. crawled from a far darker abyss to become Iron Man. Britney Spears took 15 years but reclaimed her voice. On the flip side, Lindsay Lohan's early comeback wobbled for a decade before stabilizing, and Amanda Bynes vanished into tabloid tragedy every time a new team tried a fresh start. Which column will carry Rachel's name? The variables are brutal. Timing. The longer she stays off screen, the deeper the audience forgets. Tone. A comeback demands humility without martyrdom. Own mistakes, but reveal daggers in your back. Talent. When the lights go up, can she still deliver a performance strong enough to eclipse old drama? Meanwhile, the industry watches the legal crossfire like a Vegas sportsbook. If Rachel proves sabotage, execs regain a buttered popcorn narrative. Brave star triumphs over treacherous reps. If the S-team unveils emails supporting the volatile liability label, Rachel's path narrows to indie corners and cameo hopes. Either way, the courtroom popcorn could rewrite her IMDb faster than any audition tape. So here's the ledger. On one side, a 23-year-old with a Broadway belt, a once-in-a-generation Spielberg endorsement, and a fan base that still melts comment sections at the mere hint of a new song. On the other, 3 torched representation contracts, a lawsuit stack taller than a Snow White standee, and a town whose silence sometimes hits harder than any headline. Fire your team, and you may feel lighter, but you also lose every shield between you and the shrapnel you just kicked up. Yet, maybe that's the wager. Perhaps Rachel Zegler isn't terrified of the blast at all. Perhaps she's daring Hollywood to watch her walk through the smoke untouched. Will the gamble pay off? Will the DIY docuseries flip the script? Or will the next line on her resume read cautionary tale instead of comeback queen? Whatever happens, remember this. In a town addicted to second acts, the line between Phoenix and falling star is as thin as a viral clip. And Rachel's story is still loading.